I'm delighted to see such a great turnout, and I have the pleasure of introducing Reverend Linda Bandelier, and I was honored to meet her through my grandmother, Carolyn White McCollum, who goes to College Place, and they had a lovely time getting to know each other over the fall and winter, and Nana kept telling me so much about this storyteller, Linda, who she had befriended, and then she spoke at a luncheon last month at College Place, and I attended, and I said, you just have to come to First Church. We have got to hear this. She is so talented, and she's living on a boat with her family. She's originally from Montana and has been storytelling for the last 28 years. She went to seminary in Boston, and she's been in Scotland the last nearly 3 decades. And so it's a lot of old world charm, and I thought it would be so exciting and interesting for our children because it's something very different than South Georgia. So I thought it would be a very neat opportunity for them to get to hear it and for all of you to enjoy it. It's entertaining for children of all ages, and I think Linda runs an organization called Bridges of Friendship, and these little notes were on the table of her going globally to connect and make bridges between cultures and between languages and between humanity. And so without further ado, we welcome you, Linda, and we thank you for your generosity of being here with us this evening.
Walk around a lot so that I can sort of get right on your face. And I couldn't do that if I'm at the microphone. But I need to know whether you can hear because it's more important to be heard than to walk around a lot. So right. Well, we'll see how we get on. And if we need the microphone, then we'll use it because you know, there's nothing worse than at the end if you feel like, gosh, I really would have liked to have heard that. And being in Scotland, I was always surrounded by people who would come up afterwards and say, I'm sure that was lovely. So we could try it in front. Let's see how we get on. Okay. So I'd like to start with the songs that you can help me out with. And I'll sing the chorus and I'll teach it to you. And sometimes to remember bits of songs, a little action or two will help. So that's how I teach this song. And it's, I'll sing the chorus so you can hear it. It goes like this. Rest for a while now, the night is young. Time is short and the road is long. Okay. Wow, magic. Right. Oh, that's better, isn't it? Yes. Good, good. Right. Is that better? Good. Now I can get over here and just get really close if I need to. Oh. Okay. Is that okay? Ah, brilliant. Right. So the song I'd like to teach you goes like this. Rest for a while now, the night is young. Time is short and the road is long. Tell me a story, I'll sing you a song. For tomorrow the road will be calling us on. So you can, if the actions help, you can do them. And so it's rest for a while. The night is young. Time is short and the road is long. Tell me a story, and I'll sing you a song. For tomorrow, the road will be calling us on. So you could try that with me. Rest for a while now, the night is young. Time is short and the road is long. Tell me a story, I'll sing you a song. for tomorrow the road will be calling us on. That's good. That's good. You can tell it's great going to a group of Methodists because you always tell they're singers. Yes. So let's try that. Let's try that again. Rest for a while now, the night is young. Time is short and the road is long. Tell me a story, I'll sing you a song. For tomorrow the road will be calling us on. Don't let your journey get stopped at its start. There's times when your feet have to follow your heart. The faster you travel, the less that you'll see. The more that you have, well, the less you can be. Rest for a while now, the night is young. Time is short and the road is long. Tell me a story, I'll sing you a song. For tomorrow the road will be calling us on. Look for the house with a smile at the door. We sat round the table and danced on the floor. Found warmth at the fire and came back for more. There's smoke in the chimney, no locks on the door. Rest for a while now, the night is young. Time is short and the road is long. Tell me a story, I'll sing you a song. For tomorrow the road will be calling us on. Let the reel have its turn and the song its refrain. And here's to the time when we all meet again. May there be sunshine wherever you are, but you'll still need the darkness to show you the star. Rest for a while now, the night is young. Time is short and the road is long. Tell me a story, I'll sing you a song. For tomorrow the road will be calling us on. Well, I chose that song to start with because I like the sentiment of it, and also to be able to sing together is an important part of what I think brings people together, and which is a real central part of Bridges of Friendship, which is the ministry we have in song and story, and building bridges between people and individuals and communities. And one of the important aspects of our work is providing opportunities for people to get together. In Scotland, there's a wonderful word spelled C-E-I-L-I-D-H. C-E-I-L-I-D-H, which is pronounced Cayley. Though you might not have guessed that by the spelling. It's Cayley, and it means traditionally a visit. Now, modern interpretations, if you're up in Darien, it's very Scottish in the way of interpreting as a dance. But originally it meant a visit, people coming and gathering together and sharing stories and songs and riddles and poems and sharing with one another. And so Bridges of Friendship is about creating opportunities to Cayley, to visit and get together and meet people and build friendship. So that's why we've started with that song. Now, I'd like to tell you a story. And this story, I thought, since today was really quite hot, and in Scotland, it's not quite as hot yet. In fact, it never really gets hot in Scotland except by accident. And the average temperature between winter and summer is not a lot different. But so anyway, this is a story from Scotland, and it's about a cold queen. In fact, it's about a queen with a cold, cold heart. So every time I say cold, cold heart, everybody has to go. Okay, so cold, cold heart. Okay, right. Now there's a few more characters because the queen with the cold, cold heart. That was seeing if you're awake. Okay. The queen with the cold, cold heart had 3 daughters, 3 princesses. One with a sniff, one with a cough, one who was very beautiful but very sad. Oh. And there's also, in this story, a guard at the castle gate who says, "Halt! Who goes there? Halt! Who goes there?" And there is a handsome prince. Aha! And the handsome prince, aha, rides a horse. This side is much louder than that side. Right, well, there are twice as many, but anyway. And, of course, last but not least is the Wicked Wizard. So now we have all the characters for the story of the Queen with the Cold, Cold Heart. And the Queen with the Cold, Cold Heart lived in a castle. And the castle was surrounded by a forest. And in the forest lived a wicked wizard. And he decided to put a spell on the whole countryside. And he covered the sky full of mist. And the snow fell. And even in the middle of summer, there were huge icicles from the castle's kitchens. And it was so cold because of this spell that's why the queen had a cold, cold heart. That's why one princess had a sniff, one had a cough, and one was very beautiful but very sad. Oh. Well, one day, standing up on top of the castle, looking out, watching the snow fall, the queen with the cold, cold heart said, "Oh, no one will ever get through or rescue us. We'd better go shovel a path." And so she sent out the three princesses, the one with the sniff, one with the cough, one who's very beautiful but very sad, to go with their shovels and clear a path. And so out they went, clearing a path. And as they were clearing a path through the snow, they heard in the distance a horse. And it came closer and closer, and right up to the castle gate. And riding on the horse was the handsome prince. Aha! And when the handsome prince, saw the beautiful princesses, the one with the sniff, the one with the cough, one who was very beautiful but very sad, he fell in love with the princess with the sniffle. And he said, "Oh, beautiful princess with the sniffle, will you marry me?" And she says, "You will have to ask my mother, the queen with the cold, cold heart." So he went up to the castle gate, and the guard said, "Halt! Who goes there?" "It is I, the handsome prince." Aha! "Oh, well, then you'd better come in." And so in he went, and there he met the queen with the cold, cold heart. And he said, "Your Majesty, I would like to marry your daughter." And she said, "Which one? The one with the sniff, the one with the cough, or the one who's very beautiful but very sad?" Oh! And the handsome prince, said, "I will like to marry the princess with the sniff." And the queen with the cold, cold heart said, "Oh, well done." Good. The queen with the cold, cold heart said, "No. Not unless you can help me break the spell of the wicked wizard." "Well, how can I do that?" "I'll give you something to help." And she went to the back of her chambers. There's a great big chest of drawers, and she pulled out the drawer. What do you suppose was inside?
A sword?
It's a very good guess, but it wasn't a sword.
Shovel?
It wasn't a shovel. That's a very good guess. A what? A what? No, I'll tell you what it was. It was a smaller drawer. And inside the smaller drawer was? Do you know this story? And inside the smaller drawer was? A smaller drawer. Then inside the smaller drawer? Inside the smaller drawer was a tiny little drawer. And inside the tiny little drawer was a bottle. A little bottle of magic potion. And the queen with the cold, cold heart gave it to the handsome prince. Aha! She said, "Take that and put that magic potion onto the wicked wizard. And that will break the spell." So the handsome prince, took the bottle, put it in his pocket, went out and got onto his horse. And he rode to the middle of the woods. But all the time he was riding, watching in his crystal ball was the wicked wizard. And when he saw the handsome prince, the wicked wizard reached up and took a lightning bolt out of the sky, and he threw it right at the handsome prince, who got struck, and he started tumbling from his horse, but he was very quick thinking. And as he fell, he pulled the bottle out of his pocket, and with his teeth pulled the stopper out of the bottle, threw the magic potion all over the wicked wizard, who began to shrink. And he got smaller and smaller and smaller, and he turned into a No. I'll tell you what it was. No. It was a light bulb. But this was way in the days before electricity was known about, so the handsome prince, didn't know it was a light bulb. And he saw it was about that size. And he looked at that light bulb and thought, that used to be the wicked wizard. I'd better take it back to the queen with the cold, cold heart. So he picked up the light bulb, put it in his pocket, got onto his horse, and he went galloping. And he rode all the way back to the castle. He went up to the gate, and the guard said, "Halt! Who goes there?" He said, "I already told you. I'm the handsome prince." Aha! Well, then you better come in. And in he went, and there was the queen with the cold, cold heart. There were the three princesses, the one with the sniff, one with the cough, one who was very beautiful but very sad. And the handsome prince, gave the light bulb to the queen with the cold, cold heart. She said, "What is that?" And he said, "I don't know." "Where'd you get it?" "I can tell you that. That's what I got when I put that magic potion onto the wicked wizard." "Well," said the queen with the cold, cold heart, "it could be dangerous. We'd better lock it up in the dungeons." So she got her 10 biggest guards, the full armor, the works, the spears and the swords. And they surrounded the light bulb. And they took it down, down, down to the deepest, darkest dungeon. And they locked it up, clunk. And no sooner was it locked up than the most amazing thing happened. The mist cleared. The sun shone. The icicles began to drip. The snow began to melt. The birds began to sing. Flowers began to pop out of the ground. It was lovely and warm. And the queen with the cold, cold heart, she warmed up. And the daughter with the sniff dried up. And the one with the cough cleared up. And the one who was very beautiful but very sad, she cheered up. And the handsome prince, and the princess that used to have the sniffle were married. And I'm told they lived happily ever after. But you might want to know what happened to the light bulb. But if you don't, that's fine. That's okay. You want to know? Okay. Well, see, that was all a long time ago. And if you ever go to Scotland, you find all over the place ruined castles. People tend to visit ruined castles more than they visit the other castles. But the castle sort of crumbled, and eventually this castle did. And not that long ago, there were some workers digging down under the ruined castle to find out what was there. And amongst the artifacts, the bits and pieces that they dug out, they found this light bulb. And they put them all in a cupboard. And one day, one of the workers went over and opened the cupboard and thought, because when he opened the cupboard, this light bulb went on. And he was sure when he closed the door, the light bulb went off. He thought, that's very strange. So he got his friend. He said, "Come look at this. Come look in this. Is it dangerous?" "No, I don't know. Come look." So they opened it. Light bulb went on. His friend reached in and said, "It's cold in there." "Why is that?" "Well, I can tell you why it was cold. It was because that was the spell of the wicked wizard." And those two workers got to thinking. And they said, "What a good idea. Someone might like to buy that. What a good idea to have a cupboard that keeps things cold. When you open it, a little light bulb comes on. We could sell that." And they did. And it became the world's very first refrigerator. And that's a true story from Scotland. But do you not believe that? Well, anyway, so And I think one of the greatest things about friendship is the opportunities to laugh and to share together. And one of our aims of Bridges of Friendship is giving people, resourcing folk with the tools and the confidence to make friends and to nurture friendship. And so some of that is about giving the skills of storytelling and learning. And also, I think for people to recognize and look around and see the stories that already make their life rich, you know, with shared experience and getting to know one another. So Bridges of Friendship, as well as creating opportunities for people to get together, are also helping to resource and to teach and to encourage. Be about. This keeps kind of. Can you hear me okay? Because every now and then I feel like it's doing something funny. So anyhow, so that's just another thing about Bridges of Friendship is we do storytelling and singing workshops and other kinds of events as well. Now we're going to have another song. This over here. That's better. Okay. This is a song that was written by an American songwriter called Bill Staines, and it's called Bridges. And I think in many ways it captures the sentiment of what we're about with our work. There are bridges, bridges in the air, they are shining in the sun. They are stone and steel and wood and wire, changed two things to one. They are languages and letters, they are poetry and all. They are love and understanding, and they're better than a wall. They are languages and letters, they are poetry and all. They are love and understanding, and they're better than a wall. There are canyons, they are yawning in the night. They are rank and bitter anger, they're all devoid of light. They are fear and blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and so foreboding, and they're oh so very wide. They are fear and blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and so foreboding, and they're oh so very wide. Let us build a bridge of music, let us cross it with a song. Let us span another canyon, let us right another wrong. And if someone should ask us where we're off and bound today, we will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. And if someone should ask us where we're off and bound today, we will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. One of the things that I know is true about everybody is that we've all got a song and we've all got a story to share. And that's why the Ceilidh, the gathering of people, almost always works, because when you sit and you're listening or you're speaking and you're being heard, it's what's at the heart of friendship, and it's what's at the heart of our faith. And you can picture so many of the stories of Jesus sitting down telling stories, and probably not discussing a lot about whether they were going to overthrow the Romans or whatever they were going to do, but sitting down, telling stories and listening, and weaving that magic that comes when stories are shared and people, will take the story away and tell it to someone else. And so the more we recognize our stories, whether they're the stories of our faith, the stories of our shared traditions, our shared experience, the richer our lives become. And I love this term, story rich. And the more rich our lives are in story and song, then the more we have to offer. And often the places that are most broken, I think, in the world are the places that the stories have been set aside because of conflict or with struggle or poverty or whatever. But the opportunities to share stories is something we can all do and bring richness to others as well. I'd like to tell a story and sing a song. And this story I particularly like because it's a story across conflict. In fact, there was a story, there were about two nations that were battling one another. And the battles had gone on for weeks and months and years. And finally, it had come to the point that the only two who stood on the battlefield was the champion from either side. All the rest were gone. And now between these two would be determined the fate of so many. And the two were so evenly matched. All day long they battled sword to sword, hand to hand, never gaining the upper hand on the other. From sunrise to sunset. And as the sun set, they were exhausted. And so the two of them agreed to fight it out the next day. And so to rest for the night. And so they settled themselves down with this truce. And there's a little fire, they're camped there. And then sometimes the silence becomes a bit unbearable. So one of them started saying, you know, I've always been a soldier. All my life I've been a soldier. My father was a soldier and his father was a soldier. And you know, my son wants to be a soldier when he's a man as well. And I can tell he's quick and he's clever. He'll be a good soldier. And the other man said, well, I have a daughter. And you know, when I look at her, I see her mother in her youth, in the sparkle of her eye and the color of her hair and the turn of her cheek when she moves. She's a good young woman. And they began to tell stories to one another about their families, about the places they lived. And of course, telling stories always makes the road shorter, the time pass more quickly. And soon the night had passed, full of stories. And as the sun was coming up, they turned to gather up their gauntlets and their helmets and their swords and their shields. And as they picked them up, they looked at one another. They looked at one another in the eye. And then they turned and went home. Because when you know someone else's story, then it becomes your story. I haven't yet looked to see if this is in the United Methodist Hymn Book here. This hymn it's in the Methodist Hymn Book in Britain, and but I particularly like the version that's in the Church of Scotland, which is the Presbyterian church in Scotland. And I heard the voice of Jesus say. So if it's one that you know the words to, and you can sing along, you can sing along with this tune. I heard the voice of Jesus say, "Come unto me and rest. Lay down, thou weary one, lay down thy head upon my breast. I came to Jesus as I was, weary and worn and sad. I found in him a resting place, and he has made me glad. I heard the voice of Jesus say, behold, I freely give the living water, thirsty one, stoop down and drink and live. I came to Jesus and I drank of that life-giving stream. My thirst was quenched, my soul revived, and now I live in him. I heard the voice of Jesus say, I am this dark world's light. Look unto me, thy morn shall rise, and all thy days be bright. I looked to Jesus and I found in him my star, my sun. And in that light of life I'll walk till traveling days are done. I looked to Jesus and I found in him my star, my sun. And in that light of life I'll walk till traveling days are done. I'd like to tell you a bit about the story of our journey. And, you know, out of the experiences of our lives, whether they're joyful or sorrow, amazing things happen. And I think for my own self, the journey began with nursing my terminally ill husband for 2 years. And then realizing that that whole experience had completely changed me. I had been in ministry and I'd been a storyteller for decades, but I realized at that point, when I was working full-time in pastoral work and workplace chaplaincy, it was time that I needed to change what I was doing in ministry, and I had a real longing to go back to the roots of the singing and the storytelling that always from youth had sort of nurtured and lifted my soul and spirit. And it seemed when I was singing and telling stories, other people were lifted as well. And so in 2009, I realized that it was time to make things, something needed to happen. And so during the course of the next year, my colleagues in the church and friends began saying, go for it, go for it. And during that time is also when Jeff and I met. And so both coming from different experiences of bereavement and finding new direction and not realizing our paths were going to eventually continue on together. But so anyway, in 2010, I went to half-time ministry with the local church, and so that I could rebuild the storytelling freelance work that I had been doing and getting it more on a sound footing. And during that time was when the whole idea of Bridges of Friendship began to come together. Because in 2010 in Edinburgh, we celebrated the 100th anniversary of a big missionary conference that really set the stage for churches working together ecumenically worldwide. And so out of that, we began to look for stories about different cultures and look about Scotland, going out and meeting different people and places. And found myself, people saying, oh, we love stories about friendship. You know, we get a bit anxious when folk ask us to do mission or evangelism, but we can do friendship. And so many of the folk in churches were saying, more stories about friendship, more songs about people coming together and genuinely meeting. And so out of that was born the idea of Bridges of Friendship as a ministry, because all those things were so central to who I was with my storytelling work. And then as Jeff and I became more acquainted, and he was saying, well, if you want to travel more with your work, have you ever thought about going in a boat? And I said, I grew up in Montana. I never saw the ocean until I was 22. I don't know a lot about boats. And so he from his own background of working with various people with various disabilities and abilities and outdoor sports and sailing and development of personal growth and development and counseling, we began to see ways our ministries, our work could weave together. And so the idea of this boat came about, so we began to look for a boat. And I said, well, the boat will have to be able, because if you're in Scotland, you can't count on sitting on the deck. There's not that many. I said, it's got to be big enough inside to maybe have a dozen people sit around comfortably. He says, that's a very sizable boat. So we began looking for a boat that could become our home and could be provide a place for people to get together, to meet, and with which we could travel wherever God called us. And because that's really what I think 2010 for me was about, God saying, right, it's time to trust me, he said, because I want you to leave behind, the security of your employment with the church and follow these gifts and talents that I've given you as an individual and as my child and as a minister, a pastor, and go do those. And, I said, oh, that's a bit risky. God said, well, you got to trust me. I said, okay. So eventually we found a boat. And that's how we ended up in Brunswick, because the boat was there in the marina. And it met all our specifications. It did have a couple drawbacks, like it needs a new engine. And a new generator. But it came to us by a story as well. And so, so along the way, you think, sometimes you think, why are we doing this? Why do we have this? And then God sort of says, yep, you're on the right path. It's not exactly the path you were expecting, but you're on the right path. And so that's how we've come to be in Brunswick, is the boat's here. And so the boat is our home. And the engine is going to arrive in a few weeks. And Jeff will put it in. He's a man of many talents. And then when we're finally able to go, at some point we will sail back to Scotland. But also we believe that the work of Bridges of Friendship, which is about getting folk together and telling and sharing stories and building the real deep friendship that what our faith is about. And a lot of the work is actually being in communities like yourself, which are already rich with story and friendship. And you can just hear the list of things that, the notices give you so many clues about the way your story of friendship is connecting with the community and taking Jesus out to meet other people and for them to meet him in meeting each of us, each of you. And so when our boat's ready, then we're going to sail and see where God calls us to, though we feel a real drawn back to Scotland because so many folk there were praying for us and supporting us and with their prayers and their good wishes that we want to go say, see, we're at work, and thank you for your, your thoughts and your prayers. And so that's a bit about our story, how we've come to be here. And I'd be delighted if you have any questions or like to know anything more about. Yes. I moved to Scotland in 1988, and I think because I do a lot of traditional folk singing, and I believe that when you sing in another dialect, you pick up the rhythms, and that's what I attribute it to. Because funnily enough, when you're in Scotland, when I'm in Scotland, they say, "You certainly haven't lost your American accent, have you?" I say, "I don't sound like my mother anymore." But and here people say, "Oh, you've got this lovely Scottish accent." But I think some of it's from the singing. And,
you have family still in Montana?
yes, my mother is there. Yeah, she's 83. And my brother and sister are both there. And two of my nephews and grandniece and nephew. So, I met a flamboyant kilt-wearing Scotsman. Yeah. It was after I trained for the ministry in Boston. It was after that when I had finished my training. I'd always assumed I would go back to Montana and be in sort of traditional pastoral ministry. And so that changing point in my life, I met this story. And I started telling stories when I was in seminary. That was what got me through the terror of having to preach. was learning to tell stories.
That is true.
You've got a great storyteller sitting right there in front of you, too, Miss Linda. His name is Bill Brown.
Yeah. I thought it might be you. Yeah. Right. Well, yes.
We attended the Westwood Chapel in London one time on a Sunday to hear an English pastor and the president of the Claremont Seminary in California was a guest speaker.
Oh, so you didn't get to hear them English preacher.
And after the service, they told us that when they rebuilt the chapel, spent $1.5 million rebuilding the chapel, and had a dedication. They invited the Queen, and after the service, the Queen said, "My, you Methodists do sing loud."
Yes. Yeah. They do. Yes. Yes. Oh.
We
Excuse me.
spent 3 weeks over there in England and Scotland, and when we flew over there, it was snowing, and before we left, the wind came up from the south, sun came out, and people were lying in the park with no shirts on. My friend and I climbed to the top of Sir Walter Scott
Monument. Yeah.
Monument in Edinburgh, and coming down, we met a large, stout lady going up, and we thought we'd be marooned for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. The stairwell gets very narrow. Yes. Yes. Well, that's probably a more reasonable kind of story, yeah. About blocks of ice and yeah. Yes.
Did you get to play with people in the boat? Like get people to come in and play?
Well, we have had some folk visit us on the boat, and at the moment it's a bit of a building site, because there's an engine in the middle of where you'd sit, but you can sit around it. And we've had a number of people come and visit us and offer prayers on the boat, which is really lovely, because it's our home, so it's always lovely to have visitors, especially if they want a paintbrush or a bit of sandpaper as well, or if they know anything about mechanics or yes. Yes. Your dad's in England. Oh, right.
Only till Friday.
Till Friday, then he'll be back. Yeah, excellent. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Some castles do, yes, yes. Well, the one in the story, it depends which one which castle you, I mean, that one didn't, as far as I know, because it fell into ruins before we could really see what it was there. But there are some castles that do have secret passages. Yes, there are. There are some, in fact, a number of them, there's a couple of big castles that are still standing that they've even restored parts of. And then there's some that are still private homes. They're not, they were owned by not by kings and queens, but by very rich people, and they built castles. And there's some that I remember being at a wedding, doing a wedding in one castle, and it was quite fun because it was like a secret passage from where the bride got ready to come out, so that was quite fun. Yeah, that was good.
Y'all, she gives new meaning to the term Methodist preacher. Okay, I want to thank Linda and Jeff. It's been great to get to know you all, and please know our doors are open. We want you to come back anytime. Now listen, they call in the United Kingdom, they call the church over there the Methodist Church. Why do they call it? We think we've got the biggest, the best, the first of everything in America, don't we? Why are they the Methodist Church? It's where it started. It's where it started. What a tradition. Okay, we're past the baskets. This is a love offering. And really, we want y'all to come back and see us again.
Thank you.
Okay? We really do. So let's have a word of prayer. And we'll be dismissed, and we'll ask God's blessings on them and pray that the rest of their boat will get here. We're just glad you got something that engine generator, you can deal with that as long as it didn't have any holes in it. So we're good. Let's pray. Lord, thank you. Thank you for what we've heard tonight. We thank you for bridges that build friendships. And we thank you for the opportunity to make new friends. And Lord, we just ask your blessing upon the ministry. We thank you for the call that you have upon both of their lives. And we pray that you would bless Linda and Jeff and their families and those that support them and bring them back to us again at some point. We pray. Now take us about the rest of the evening with a sense of your presence because bridges are being built.